everybody? Welcome back to the Juice, man. One of these days, Shane's gonna hit us with an intro.
Well, man, I thought that was your thing. Like you've always done.
Why don't you just say real quick how it sounds?
So what's the line again?
I always just go, what do I say? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Juice.
Welcome back to the Juice.
Yeah.
I think you do it better.
You know, we don't even say our names on this podcast anymore.
Nobody cares who we are.
You're right. You're right. Especially after
It's not what it's about.
especially after this past weekend.
Oh, look at him down on ourselves. It was a listen. I am thrilled to have what we had. We had 1697. We had some stuff we felt like was going to produce a very, very large bite or two or three for us. They were not there. Whether you want to chalk that up to the fact the water temperature dropped 12 degrees, went from mid 50s to mid to low 50s down to 42. Yikes. That's cold for here. We don't get that cold normally.
That's very cold.
49
That's
to
I've ever
50.
seen on the lake, I think.
Yeah, that one winter snap we had several years ago where it snowed nice, whatever. But, yeah, typically 49, 50s like the low in the winter. Warms up to mid 50s in the afternoon. When you see 42 and the wind's blowing on your stuff,
You're in for trouble.
yeah, they just weren't there.
No, they really weren't.
So, like I said, I'm really, really thrilled to have what we had because we literally caught those fish where we've never fished before.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we just like I said on tournament day. So real quick, we had a camera boat with us.
Yes.
So that'll eventually air on, I guess, what, the Pursuit Channel, Outdoor Channel. What do they air that on?
That's a great question.
It'll be on something
Bass
like
Champs
that.
TV. I don't know what.
It'll probably be on their YouTube channel. And
Yeah,
stuff.
YouTube.
So yeah, they decided to put a camera on our boat. They're probably regretting that now, but
No.
no. Well, Shane, runs a skeeter, and they had enough faith in us to put a camera on our boat, and so yeah, you'll get to see that eventually. Us being like, hey, they're not here. What are we about to do? And then, like I said on tournament day, kind of opportunistic fishermen. That's kind of what happened. Like, we just happened to see some fish blowing through bait, so we caught a limit in like 10 minutes. Happened to see a good one there, caught it, then happened to see. I mean, it was random. I mean, we just went fishing. I
think we literally caught a fish on a jerkbait, caught a fish on an A-rig, caught a fish on a jig, caught a fish on a crankbait.
Yep.
I mean, it was just junk fishing.
Rig, everything.
Junk fishing 101. Scrapped everything that we had, and we kept running it. We kept it honest all day. They just weren't there. Conditions, whatever it is, something happened. Belt coming up this weekend.
Yeah, we ended up cutting a check in that event, by the way.
Completely different weather.
Yeah, it is.
It's raining.
It's raining right now. It's warmed up a little bit this week.
65 today.
It's going to be blowing, though, I think, in our tournament again. So I don't know, man.
I think it was water temperature related more than anything.
Well, we're going to find out.
Yes, we are.
We're going to find out really quick, guys. But, yeah, big tournament coming here to the Sam Rayburn area next week. Somebody's going to walk away with $50,000. So,
yeah, big money tournament, big team tournament.
They actually got
stakes.
a decent
They're over 110 boats already.
113 right now. So
Nice.
that's better than any event last year.
Yeah.
Much. So
No,
they're doing well with
it's
that.
good to see them growing. It's good to see them trending up, and it's well deserved because it's if you ask me, it's the best team trail out there as far as it's big money.
Bang for buck, yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that, but we're excited about the weather change because it's going to be different than what it was. So hopefully it warms the water up and things get better for us. But well, what we had Sook.
Yeah, we had Mr. John Sookapon. That was a really cool episode too.
He has some crazy stories.
He had some crazy stories. I mean, he died.
Yeah, he did.
He died.
I mean, it's
and came back.
not funny, but yeah.
But I mean, like, it's not fun. I'm not laughing because it's funny that he died. But it's kind of like,
I mean, I don't know how you're supposed to take that other than
well, I don't mean that he like.
it's not funny.
Wyatt. He just he's a cool dude though, man. And like to get to talk to him about the reality almost of like being a rookie on the elites.
Did he say he finished 100th? I didn't follow that up and look. I didn't want to like lean
He said
in
he
on
did
that.
as worst as you possibly can do.
Well, I think he's at one point. I'm pretty sure he said it would finish 100th without of 100 or 101 or whatever it is. But it's like, man, that's rough.
Yeah, it's very rough.
Because he had a lot of momentum going, coming out of the NPFL, kind of kicking ass, taking names.
He had seen success and then qualified year one.
Year one.
So yeah, you're on a roll.
Yeah.
And then Hey, you get punched in the mouth a little bit there.
But he's got a great attitude. For those of you that didn't listen to the episode, he's got a great attitude about it. He's hungry, he's angry, he's ready to get back out there and go fishing. Even though he doesn't have a boat yet. That was the title of the video because true, clickbait as it may be.
A new boat yet.
Yeah, he's got a boat being built. He just hasn't taken possession of it, and it's going to be the week of the first MPFL. So he's got a busy schedule. I thought he was a super cool guest. If you hadn't had a chance, go back and watch that one. Interesting guy, smart guy. But we got another interesting, another kind of entrepreneur type.
Yes,
very much
businessman
so.
Here.
He's known by many names. He's Dream Catcher Fishing. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not know that.
So he's a guide himself
Okay.
over in North Carolina.
So he still guides to this day?
To this day. He owns a tackle shop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
he's an entrepreneur, man. The guy's a businessman, business-savvy guy. And we'll let him tell the whole story, but he's involved where he started. I think he started it, and part owner, not really sure. We'll get into that, but FishTipscom. Some of you may have heard of this. Some of you may have not. There's been some controversy around it.
Right.
And we'll get into all that. But I think people's immediate reaction is either like 100% negative or like, yeah, what a great idea. So
do you want to get into the basics of what it is, or do you want to let him do it?
Let's let him do it, man.
Okay.
He's the guy.
Okay. Before we get him on the phone real quick, we are very close to 1,000 subscribers. We are very close. So with the channel, first of all, we want to thank y'all guys because since we've been consistently posting and basically pushing all of our viewers to our YouTube channel, we have grown substantially in the matter of 3 to 4 weeks. I think we went from
600 maybe
500 to 600 to now near 1,000. And thank y'all guys, because without y'all, man, that's not possible. And we've had a bunch of new listeners and a bunch of new people subscribing.
Yeah, a lot of great comments. People saying new listeners. Appreciate you those. There's one guy on here, I can't remember his name, William. I'm just curious. He's commenting on every one of our episodes. Llama.
What does that mean?
Llama. William. I don't know if
Seth Fighter Llama. Like,
am I supposed to thumb up that?
Llama.
Or I don't know.
Like I don't.
What?
That's what Seth Fighter does, right? Llama.
Yeah. Maybe it's Fighter. Maybe that's like his alias.
Maybe
he's telling us to get Fighter on.
Okay, we'll do that.
William, if you watch this one,
please tell us what Llama is.
You can comment Llama, but then elaborate a little bit. Tell us what we're talking about here. But no, we appreciate all the comments. Just an idea. Nobody probably cares, but wanted to, when we hit 1,000, want to give away a hat.
Yeah.
Or 2.
Yep.
Or 3. We got some. Maybe what we'll do is we'll pick 3 subscribers that comment on this next episode.
Yeah.
And if you're a subscriber, we'll randomly pick a subscriber and send you a hat. You may never wear it, but
they're kind of slick.
Yeah. I wear them. Wyatt doesn't never wear them.
Well,
he doesn't believe.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get this guy on, man. This is gonna be an interesting episode.
Yeah.
Interesting episode.
Austin
is his name?
Dream Catcher Fishing. He's got a good following, man.
Really?
Like on YouTube and Instagram and yeah. Let's see what he's got to say. Austin Neary.
Hello.
Mr. Austin.
We're live. This is live now, right?
No live yet.
No, man. We live in the boonies, bro. We cannot have live.
We're going to figure out a way to get live, but we're not live right now.
Elon Musk's satellite.
But we're recording, right?
Oh, you're on record.
You're on.
I'm on record.
Yep.
I like that.
It's on record. It will be documented and posted into the universe.
Yep. It's going to the cloud.
Nice.
Wherever that is, it's going to it.
It's going to it. I like it.
Well, man, we didn't give you much of an intro other than Dream Catcher Fishing, talk about how you're kind of an entrepreneur type, tackle shop. We typically start with a little background. So why don't you give us a background, kind of how you got into fishing and got your hands in all these businesses?
Yeah, man. So I was born and raised on Lake Wiley, South Carolina. My dad was a custom home builder, built us a house right on the lake. And when I say right on the lake, I mean right down the road. We didn't have anything waterfront, but we would take out a little John boat with a 25 horse, go catch catfish, man. And Dad just introduced me to the outdoors at a super young age. And then he'd gotten a job offer as a custom home builder up in Maryland where we moved, and I ended up going to high school there. But really, I cut my teeth in the junior BASS. I don't know if you guys fished in like a junior club when you were little, but my dad, I loved bass fishing. I was a competitor. I loved just competition baseball. I played ice hockey a little bit, played basketball, played football, everything. But Dad was like, man, he's competitive and he loves the fish. He looked in, we were familiar with like Bass Masters, the Bassmaster Classic and all this stuff, but we didn't know that there was junior Bassmaster. So he started a junior Bassmaster club called Junior Performance Fishing Team. And dude, I mean, I think I was like 9 or 10 years old when Dad started that club. And man, we had some absolute studs. I don't know if you guys know the Duarte brothers on the East Coast. They win tons of BFLs in the Carolinas all the way up through Maryland. Ben Dewalski, who was one of the founders of the NC State bass fishing team, won a couple college national championships. I mean, they're just like literally there's so many accolades from youngsters in that club, like as adults in the fishing industry. It's incredible. But yeah, man, I played baseball all through high school, and then I went to college, Western Carolina University, on a baseball scholarship. My high school coach said, go to a place you're going to love in case you get hurt. And I fell in love with the mountains. You could just zoom in on Google Earth to WCU and you can see there's 20 lakes within about an hour. Nice. And it was just beautiful. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. Well, I'm in school, right? And back at home, I don't know if you guys know who Epic Eric is, Eric Galasso. He's a freaking bait maniac. He custom crankbait dude. He was one of my mentors, kind of a life mentor, business mentor. Growing up, he lived just right down the road in Maryland. And anyways, he goes, dude, you got to check out this Southern Trout Eaters DVD. And it's these guys that were throwing big swim baits in Western North Carolina, North Georgia, and upstate South Carolina. Well, I was like, holy cow, like Eric, they're fishing in lakes like right next to my university. And he goes, no way. Well, they had ended up filming this deal and moved on. They filmed this DVD, moved on. I was like one of the first people to get my hands on the DVD. And I start throwing big swim baits. I get hurt. I should say I got hurt my sophomore year of college. And I'm like, I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but I love bass fishing. There's a bunch of lakes. So I started the college fishing team at the university. And I had a decent little college career, won some big regionals. We qualified, my partner and I, we qualified for every national championship every year. But anyways, I started my guide business throwing these big swim baits, catching fish, having fun, and ended up, we won some local tournaments and caught some giant bass. And I kept having people, like, how are you catching them? How are you catching them? And I'm like, man, people like I don't want to tell them anything, because I'm like, I've got no way to really monetize it. So I'm like, I started my guide business. I'm like, if you want to know how I'm catching them, I'm like, I'll take you. Yeah, you got to pay. I'm willing to tell you. But then I'm like, holy cow, like these baits that I'm using are like $150, $200. All these guys, after I would guide them, they'd go online and buy it. And I'm like, holy cow, I'm making these other companies a lot of money. And I'm like, how in the world can I, kind of be on the receiving end of these transactions? So I started Dreamcatcher Guides, and then we started Dreamcatcher's Fishing Supply. And then, so now I have a guide service. I've got a tackle shop, and, we started creating YouTube content, just kind of like trying to drive demand and, creating content, creating videos and everything. And we have a decent little YouTube following to this day. I think we're just short of like 11,000 subscribers or whatever. But as far as niche market, like if you just ask someone, East Tennessee, Western North Carolina, North Georgia, upstate South Carolina, do you know about Dreamcatchers Fishing? Like we have a really big following locally. I would say, like the Southern Trout Eaters made it very known, about that big swim bait bite. But then, I was kind of a guide creating content and, naturally just trying to create a great little guide business and revenue stream for my tackle shop. Sure. I created a lot of content with all these big swim baits. Do you guys throw big swim baits, by the way?
Soft ones, line throughs is probably more what we throw. Matter of fact, on several times on this podcast, we talked about how I totally suck with the glide bait and I never throw it, to be honest with you. Oh,
really?
I've just never taken the time to learn it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's a tool. I mean, I talk to so many people on a daily basis that are like, man, I got into glide bait fishing, a lot of followers, a lot of this, a lot of that. And, here's the deal, dude, like guiding people, I've been very, blessed with the fact that like, I'm like, hey, we're guiding, you know, and I take them out and I'm like, hey, there's, you know, brush pile bite or whatever. I'm like, you guys are going to throw this drop shot. Cause most of the customers I take in my region, they're all vacationers. They're all tourists.
Yeah.
And you know, they're not throwing rods rated for 7 ounces and big reels and crap, you know, like,
probably don't want that thing flying by your head anyway.
Well, that's exactly right. I have been hooked by people that have no idea what the heck they're doing. Oh, with giant hooks, dude, like ST41 black nickel 2X gauge to the freaking bone, bro. Either way, that's for another day. But you know, I would just like, I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna throw this glide bait around, and I would just throw it randomly. And this is even pre-live scope. I would just throw it, and dude, I just would get so much. It'd be the only thing I do because I'm like, I'm ADD. I love watching you guys fish. I love guiding you, but like, I just need to be fidgeting with something. So I just cast. I'm just always watching these glide baits, you know, and about every other trip, I'd randomly catch like a 7 or 8 pounder. And, you know, I'm like, man, you know, and then all of a sudden I'm like catching numbers of them. And anyways, I love doing
which that's probably a giant for over there, huh?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to get into some of my Texas versus North Carolina theories.
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, you Texas boys, I'm like, if you compare state records, like you guys state records, like an 18.5 pounder versus the North Carolina state record as a percentage. Now I'm just saying our state record's 75% of your state record. So I'm like, if you call a 10 pounder in Texas a 10 pounder, that means it is a 7.5 pounder in North Carolina, like the equivalent of a Texas 10.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. If you do the math that way.
Yeah. I mean, so, and I'm like, dude, we catch 40 or 50 of those a year, you know? And
that's good, though.
we have a lot of, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, geez, in Texas and places where these fish actually get big for northern strainers, dude, they're freaking huge.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to it. Yeah. So anyways, I got this guide business. I got this YouTube channel. I got this tackle shop, and yeah, man, just a great business, you know. But within that, man, I'd have, and even to this day, I have 15 to 20 people a week, dude. I mean, messaging me, Instagram, YouTube, email, calls, text. Hey man, I'm coming into town. You know, what's been the deal? What's working? You know, and it's always, I mean, you guys guide. How often do you guys get hit up for information?
Every other day,
all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, and for me, I'm like, okay, like, hey, I can't just give this away for free. You know, I'm willing to guide you. Right. So, you know, maybe 1 out of 5 of those people I'd convert to a fishing trip, and which was great, you know, and I get asked for so much information. I've got a lot of leads. So I book a lot of trips. I mean, we do over 200 trips a year when I was guiding. Now I've got a full team of guides. We do about 400 trips a year. But, you know, even still, like we get a lot of leads. A lot of people want info. And, you know, people still asking, well, here's the deal. If I'm only booking 1 out of 5, but people still want my info, you know, I'm like, man, I've always had this deal. I'm like, golly, these people value my knowledge. And here's the deal, because my knowledge has cost, right? Because what does it cost to gain that knowledge? It costs fuel. It costs time. It costs equipment. It costs insurance. It costs tires. There's so many costs associated with my knowledge. Sure. And because something has cost, that means it has value. So I'm like, okay, these people value my information. You know, so, you know, it was one of those things I kept guiding. Well, one day I guide a fella, him and his son, his name's Adam, son's name's Strickland. And we go out, we mash a big bag of smallmouth on a glide bait. The kid's freaked out. We have 2 4.5, 5 pound smallmouth on the same glide bait at the same time, reeling it in.
That sounds fun.
I'm like, get it in the net. One dives down, comes back up. There's only one fish. I net it. I'm like, oh, the other one pulled off. It was the smallmouth literally pulled the O-ring straight. Wow. And it was a tank on a depth 250. And anyways, dude, we smashed this big bag of smallmouth. The dad and son are like, you know, I drop them off. The dad's like, dude, this is one of the best memories I've ever made with my son. He goes, I want to book another trip like this week. And I said, Adam, I appreciate it, man. You know, I had a great time, but I'm like, I'm booked for 3 months, legitimately. And I said, my other guides are booked for like 3 months. Like we have no openings. And he's like, oh, dude, I have a bass boat. And I'm like, oh, cool. I said, Adam, and he said, I will pay you for like for another guide trip. Like if you almost did like a virtual guide or something, like just texted me exactly where to go, what to throw, so I could go out with my son and try to replicate that day. And I was like, huh. I'm like, that's interesting. Like, he values my knowledge and wants to compensate me for my knowledge. And he's just a recreational fisherman. He's up here on vacation and wants to make a memory with his kid. I'm like, this is like a no harm, no foul situation. And he's going to compensate me for my knowledge. Like, this is pretty interesting. So I said, yeah, dude. I said, here's the deal. I said, he scanned my phone, or I gave him a PayPal, whatever. He sent me like $150, and I texted him a super dialed in tip. And then I'm like kind of trying to screenshot stuff. And then I'm trying to like zoom in on like the Navionics phone app or whatever. And I'm like backing out. It's clunky. And I send it to him. And anyways, you know, we're guiding at a bunch of different lakes. I'm back on that lake, whatever. He ends up texting me 3 days later, and he's like, dude, I smashed him again. He's like, unbelievable. My kid caught some giant. He's like, this was awesome. Yeah. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, this is the first time other than hiring a guide that I was able to scale myself. Like, I was able to replicate a guide trip without being on the trip. Well, then, a couple people though, between like the time he went back out with his son and, you know, I'm like, wow, he charged me. So I would tell, the next couple of days, naturally I have 4 or 5 people a day hit me up. Hey, you know, I'm at this lake, I'm at that lake. And we cover a lot of lakes. So we get a lot of these requests. But I was like, hey, you know, I'm not willing to tell you for free. Like, this is how I provide for my family. Like, I've got a kid, I've got a wife, I've got a mortgage, I got a car payment, I got a boat payment. Like, I can't just give this for free. I've got bills. My knowledge is valuable. And anyway, so I'm like, but I'm like, hey, if you pay me, I'll tell you exactly what to do. Well, all of a sudden, dude, I had 3 people between the time Adam and I made the first transaction. Adam reached out like 3 or 4 days later. I'd made 3 more of these sales on my knowledge. And then I reached back out to, so when Adam's like, dude, this is unbelievable, whatever, I said, Adam, like, we need to have a serious talk. Because when on that original guide tip, he said he kind of comes from a tech background. Yeah. I said, Adam, I'm like, I think this is a business, dude. Yeah. And he goes, you got to be crapping me, dude. He goes, I was thinking the same thing. And I'm like, dude, I was like, I've monetized 4 of these kind of like digital guide trips since you and I did that original transaction. And he goes, dude, I reached out to another guide that I go with down in Florida, tarpon fishing. He's like, I got a boat down there. He's like, he's booked like crazy. I have a few hours to fish next weekend. And he's like, I did the same thing. I paid him and he gave me information. And I'm like, whoa, like, this is bigger. Now I'm like, yeah, well, this is not only light bulb, but I'm like, holy cow, this is every guide in the world, bro. What fishing guide does not, like, dude, we all get hit up for information, whether you're a tarpon guy on the flats, whether you're a snook guy, whether you're a fly fishing guide in Colorado, whether you're a bass fishing guide in the mountains of Western North Carolina, a guide on Sam Rayburn, a salmon fisherman in Washington, or a lake trout guide, or a muskie guide in Wisconsin. I'm like, dude, there are people who are recreational anglers that don't have confidence or knowledge, and they're actually willing to compensate guides and people that are in the know for knowledge to give them confidence. And I'm like, this is huge. So anyways, I'm like, dude, we have a business. So we draft this little thing. We don't know what to call it. We're like, maybe we call it pre-fish, like we're fishing before you go fishing, or, you know, maybe we call it fish tips or whatever. We did a bunch of stuff. Anyways, I made a business plan, just kind of talking about how it would work. And, anyways, we came to the conclusion it would be a great marketplace like Airbnb or Uber. It'd be a marketplace for dialed in guides and dialed in fishermen, tournament professional fishermen, or whatever, to be able to sell information to recreational anglers looking to maximize their time on the water. And, you know, I sent out a survey via Dreamcatchers. You know, we got a big following, like 10,000 followers and stuff. And we had about 1,000 responses. And out of those 1,000 responses, about half of them said that they would be willing to compensate guides and dialed-in anglers for information before they went to waters they've never been to before. Yeah. Whether that be guide trip or knowledge. And we're like, holy cow, okay, like 50% of people said they would buy knowledge. And then I'm like, you know, further down and be like, hey, would you be willing to sell knowledge? And then 50% of people were like, yeah, that sounds like something I'd be up for. So I'm like, holy cow, there's a market. There's a market where there's people in the know that, you know, they're trying to make it in the industry. They're entrepreneurs in the industry. They're guides, they're tournament, whoever they are, they're trying to make it in the industry. And, you know, like I know you need multiple sources of revenue in this industry if you're going to make it. Mm-hmm. So we're like, there's people that will sell and there's people that will buy. And we're like, holy cow, dude, this is a marketplace. So we hired a true tech CEO, Cal Lott, and he hired a team. And dude, the freaking rest was history, man. We had a working website, FishTips.com. We had a working website in 9 weeks. We went from like hiring the tech guys to first sale.
So when was this? What year was this when you launched the website?
This was last year. Yeah,
Okay.
We haven't even been in it for a full year. So this was literally, we brought the tech guys on the team maybe like a week ago last year, and we made our first sale, I think, at the end of February or the first week in March.
Okay.
So we're not even in it in a full year. Well, so because I've got kind of a decent following with dream catchers, I start talking like, hey, I'm a guide. People always hit me up for information, and I'm just like, hey, check out FishTips.com. Like, I'm willing to try to replicate myself or scale myself by selling my knowledge. And he immediately, people are like, oh my gosh, you're selling secrets. Like, this is like a sin or something, man. Like, this feels dirty. And here's the deal, dude. I'm like, hold on. I'm a guide. Every time I guide somebody, I'm taking them to my secret holes. I'm like, technically I'm already selling my secrets because I'm taking them to my secret spots. We're throwing my secret baits. I'm telling them the secret setup. I'm telling them the secret bait mods that I'm doing. Like, anytime I guide somebody, I'm already selling my secrets. And even like to this day, dude, I get a lot of, like, I was on the phone with a guy earlier, and there's plenty of guides that I've talked to, and they're like, I'm just not up for selling secrets. And I'm like, have you ever taken a step back and looked at what you actually do? Because I'm like, unless you're a terrible guide, you're actually selling secrets, because here's the reality. I want a repeat customer as a guide. I want someone to leave a good review for me on Google. I want him to tell 4 or 5 people he had a good time with me. So I'm willing to provide the best service as a guide in order to achieve those things. So technically, I'm already selling my secrets. So when people are like, I can't believe you're selling secrets, I'm like, I'm a guide. It's what I do. And then when you step back from an industry perspective, dude, how do these guys grow their social medias? They're actually selling their secrets. Now, they may not be telling you they're selling their secrets, but they get on YouTube, they create video content talking about it.
Yeah.
So, and they're trying to monetize ad revenue on YouTube, and they're trying to gain sponsorship dollars. So,
sure.
By the way, I'm like, everybody, Shane, is actually selling secrets.
That's a fair point.
So, yeah, like when you truly step back, because and you know this as an entrepreneur, you're the tackle addict, you're a guide, you have real estate. Like, when you step back and actually, like, there's a difference between working in your business and working on your business, right? Yeah. When you're the chief chef and the bottle washer and the server and the cook and you're all these things and you're like working in the business, it's hard to kind of get a grasp of like what actually you do because you're like overwhelmed by doing it. But if you just kind of take a moment and step back and you're like, okay, like, this is how I monetize. This is what my monetization looks like. This is my revenue stream. This is my value proposition. This is the product I sell. Like, when you step back and you like really look at it, you're like, wow, at the end of the day, I really am just trying to monetize secrets. Like, that's what being in the fishing industry is. By the way, if you're a tournament guy trying to win tournaments, you're trying to monetize secrets. By the way, if you're a professional fisherman and you have cameras in the boats and GPS trackers in the boats, you're monetizing secrets. But I can follow any Elite Series event, see a GPS tracker on someone, and then they make a post on their video later on in the week that says, hey, this is what I was throwing. They're monetizing everybody is doing this. This is just a new way of doing it that's just totally new to the industry because it's a marketplace. So tell me if this has been like a fire hose or something. I'm just trying to like really paint a picture of like, this is just the reality of the industry. Is everyone kind of tracking with me?
No, we're tracking 100%.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I see all that. I mean, you're right. This is a little more, I guess the way to put it is kind of more direct in your face. And I think the key word is it's different, right? You and I have had several conversations before you came on, and I think as much as we all, like to talk about change and growth and acceptance, if you will, it's kind of human nature that when there is something new and different, it's almost like a rejection. Would you say that there was, I mean, I know there's been a little bit of drama kind of around this. I don't know if a little was the right term, but you've kind of been more on the front lines of that than anybody else. But when you initially launched this, I know that Alabama Bass Council dude and some other people, there was some negative, like immediate kind of like pushback, like, whoa, what is this? This is different. This is, what's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah. So, once again, when you talk about something with objectivity, right, you're like, hey, let me remove my emotion from it and let me just like look at what they're doing. Dude, there's already guides that are actually selling information. By the way, there's tons of platforms that people are selling different things. And like, this is something new. Because we had a little bit of a following. I mean, I've got a lot of friends that fish on the Elite Series. I've got friends that fish on the Bass Pro Tour. Naturally, like my circles kind of intermingle with some really big brand names in the industry. And honestly, if you think about it, it's threatening to the industry. I'm say this, and I don't mean it to be threatening, but like we're talking about maybe a local guide who has a few lakes, maybe in Oklahoma, or maybe he's a local guide in Virginia or a local guide in Wisconsin that you and me have never heard of. We're talking almost like we're providing an opportunity for him to now control content and make money. So instead of like, by the way, like cream's always going to rise to the top, but dude, there's tons of sellers on our platform. What I'm saying is like, there's like a maybe redistribution of influence all of a sudden. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So so think about this, right? This is how it works. Like when Airbnb came out, who was the main influencer in the housing in tourism, right? It was hotels. And when Airbnb came out, the hotel industry was like, this is bull crap. What do you mean you can just have a random person stay in a random person's house? That's what hotels are for. And there was a big uproar.
Sure.
Well, same thing with Uber. Uber's like, oh, what? Some random person is going to jump in some random person's car. That's what taxis are for. And the taxi industry did that. And all of a sudden, there's this redistribution of influence to the little guy, like a grassroots movement. And here's the deal. We live in an influencer. Our industry is very influencer driven. So it's like, holy cow, which we're going to get into this like further because I'm like, man, I just had a conversation with a fellow. I'm not going to drop his name on it. But we live in a very influencer driven industry. And all of a sudden we're giving guys who maybe have less of a following the ability to still monetize their knowledge is kind of threatening because it's holy cow, there's another person in the space about to monetize their knowledge. Now, when you think about that, right, and there's plenty of platforms that are like this. They pay people for cameo appearances, and then those platforms own rights to their content. And all of a sudden, the pros or the guides who did the cameo appearances don't have residual income from their content. I'm like, whoa. Because what are people constantly complaining about in our industry? They don't make enough what?
Money.
Now, holy cow, we have a platform where a content creator or influencer can create content and be compensated directly to them from consumers. Whoa, all of a sudden we have residual income. But because we're new, because it's like we don't really know a lot about this and no one, I mean, honestly, and listen, I love my buddy Ben Milliken with a passion. What Ben did was he said, buy my Waypoints on Lake Wheeler. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is a Waypoint selling app. And I'm like, no, this isn't even, I mean, are Waypoints a part of it? Like, I mean, yeah, Waypoints are part of everything. But if you go and do a Bass U seminar and get a pro that's like, hey, this is my home lake, and this time of the year, I fish these points here, and then when the weather changes, I fish it. I'm like, technically, he's pointing and showing you waypoints. Sure. He's pointing, I'm like, so I'm like, hey, by the way, though, like people pay for education, and this is an educational platform. Like when I look at the tips, the quality tips that our sellers are putting up on the platform, dude, it's like, hey, this is the time of the year. This is what the fish are doing. With this kind of weather pattern, they might do this. With this kind of weather pattern, they do this. These are some areas that I would look for. These are some areas they might migrate to because of these weather patterns. This is the forage they should be eating. If it's a full moon, maybe there's crop. It's like it's super educational. So people just come to conclusion, oh, that's the waypoint thing. And I'm like, dude, listen, if it was just waypoints, I wouldn't do it. Like I care too much about my customers to just give them fishing spots. Like sure. I want to educate people, man, because I believe like if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Yeah. And I'm all about teaching, dude. I mean, get on my YouTube channel. watch my content. Like when people are like, this dude's just in it for the money. I'm like, dude, if you sit down with me and really hear my heart around my customers, around what I do, I love education, man. I love teaching people. I love seeing people go out and make memories on the water.
Sure.
And, you know, like
Finding
even my think about, say it again.
Finding success on their own from what you've taught them, at least.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm like, dude, if there's a way for me to scale myself and I can be compensated financially and then teach them to do it. And like, once again, they're customers of mine. They're coming back on the platform. By the way, we have tons of guides that are on the platform that sell these tips, right? And that's another thing. You know, we've got some big things coming down the pipeline. A monster in our industry was like, dude, I don't care what people say about it. It's not fish waypoints, it's fish tips. Like, and I was like, that's a great way of phrasing it. Like, it's not fishwaypoints.com, it's fishtips.com. Like,
yeah.
It's advice.
So let me
it's advice.
So let me slow you down and back you up for just a second.
Yeah.
So walk us through, as a buyer, if you will, a consumer of the platform. So you log into fishtips.com. Walk us through what they might find, or how they might navigate the site and look for, just so we can kind of give a better idea. And if I can figure out how to be tech savvy enough to kind of screen record this, I'll put this on the episode, kind of walking through your site.
Yeah.
I think
so
people
if someone
see it better.
That's right. So first off, I have to tell people it's not an app. Google and Apple both take 30% of gross revenue
From apps.
So from apps. Yeah.
Whoa,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's intense. They're actually, both of them are in monopoly legal suits right now, like civil suits.
With app developers or something?
Yeah. There's a bunch of companies that are kind of getting after it because they're like, holy cow, you're taking 30% of my revenue.
That's
like,
crazy.
you trying to starve me? Yeah, well, I mean, they've got, it's kind of a monopoly when you think about it.
It is.
So it's what's called a progressive web app, which means it's a website that works like an app on your phone. So if you know how to save to home screen, whether you're on an Android or an iPhone, you can save it as a shortcut. So the icon, our Fish Tips icon, looks like an app. But anyways, you get on fishtips.com and you'll see tips come up. You'll be like, oh, what the heck? There's tips from Texas. There's tips from Louisiana, Florida, Michigan, wherever. You're like, holy cow. Well, right there it says search body of water. So you can search body of water, and then it populates the most recent tips posted by guides. Well, here's the cool thing. Let's say you don't see one for your body of water. You can request a tip. We have a spot where you can request a tip. Well, when you request a tip, it pings a lot of guides who follow that body of water via our platform, and they can fill it for you. So let's say, this is a great example. My dad is on a guy's trip to Lake Okeechobee. They're 60-year-old men. They have no idea how to use electronics. They just like casting a reel and catching some fish and drinking some beers. Like, that is literally their deal. Well, Dad's like, yeah, I read some fishing reports that said they're in grass, and I'm like, well, good luck down there, Dad. Lake Okeechobee is only 300,000 acres of it, and so Dad got on FishTips.com. He typed in Lake Okeechobee. He saw a tip posted recently by one of our guides, one of our vetted guides on the platform. All of our guides are vetted when they sign up on the platform. They have to go through everything, prove they are who they say they are. But Dad found a tip. Dad bought the tip for $150. Dad owns a bass boat. These guys are already, they're booked up on their trips, whatever. Dad bought a tip for $150, went out and caught some fish. And Dad's like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I would have had no idea where to start. I didn't know anything. He's like, Dad's just like a worm dragger. So when he's like, this guy said rip a rattle trap and throw a chatterbait, he's like, those are baits I don't have confidence in, but like reading what to do with it, and like fish grass lines. And these grass lines are there's all the details within the tip. Dad just was like, holy cow, and it worked. But yeah, so when someone gets on, they can go to fishtips.com, they search body of water, and it populates the most recent tips. You can click hey, I need a refresh, or dude, you can direct message the guide and say, hey, I'm planning a family trip there, or whatever. You can message the guide, and the guide can make a tip directly for you. So
okay,
that makes sense.
So what does a tip look like? I mean, you said it's not necessarily a waypoint thing. What would be a good selling tip? What would that look like?
Okay, let me do this. I'm going to fishtips.com right now.
All right,
and
tell me what you type in. I'll try to copy you when I record this later.
Well, I'm going to click on one of my tips. Like, I'm fine with
I'll join you
clicking
right now,
one of my
White,
tips.
and I can follow along.
Okay, so fishtips.com, and then maybe let's see. It says I posted one day ago. It says top baits and locations from Lake Chatu, late winter. Do you see it? I'm holding a stud largemouth, and I'm holding some 3.5, 4 pound spots.
Top baits locations for lake. Yeah, I see it. Late winter.
Okay, so if you click on that, you should see on your end. It has the hero shot. It has the title. It says there's no video in the tip. There are location pins and GPS coordinates. There's not additional pictures, but there's technique and weather conditions. So in the description, before you buy, it says 6 baits in 10 locations for big bags in mid to late winter, right? So here's the deal right here. So if you wanted to buy that tip, you can see where it says unlock tip, right, or buy tip or something.
Yeah, it says $200.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
$200.
So, yep. So I've sold this tip twice for $200. So that's money.
So you said it at 5 because I'm showing you only got 3 left.
Yep. I said it at 5. I wanted to limit the number of people to buy it. All right. So technique. I said we're in the cold months of winter, but it will surely change, and the weather will start to warm as well as warm fronts dropping warm rain. They'll be here before we know it. I'm a firm believer that there's always a winning population of fish in shallow areas less than 10 foot of water with deep water access. These 6 baits are my favorite late winter, early spring baits to throw. These fish are going to be in transition to spawning locations, but these are these are areas that they hold up onto. You need to look for secondary points, channel swings, and flats that have hard bottom. So I do a half-ounce green pumpkin, shad, jackhammer, chatterbait with a Zacho, skipping docks, fishing isolated cover, isolated grass laydowns or sunk structure. In the back half of these pockets, a steady retrieve with occasional quick pops of the rod and flares of the reel will create reaction strikes. A half-ounce green pumpkin jig with a Strike King Rage Crawl trailer, skipping around docks, isolated cover, let it hit the bottom. Small, quick pops of the rod after it hits the bottom. Let it hit the bottom again. A lot of times they smoke it on the fall, so be prepared to lift up if you have slow line and have a fish. A 3/8 ounce or half-ounce chartreuse and white spinnerbait with an Oklahoma blade or Colorado blade. Paralleling docks and isolated cover. Keep it high in the water column with occasional rare
detailed
flares. Say this again?
Yeah, it's pretty detailed.
Yeah, dude. So I'm going into all this. Now, condition. I said, this is when the water is 65 to 51 degrees. If it is sunny, the fish tend to move under docks and tighter to cover. If it is cloudy, they tend to roam backs of flats, and these fish could move around. So then I've got pins, so when people are like, waypoints, everyone waypoints. Dude, I just have pins on some of the back pockets of some of my favorite areas.
And that is dropped via Google Earth, correct?
It's Google Earth.
We have a Google Lowrance app or anything like that.
That's right. It's not a Lowrance app. It's not a Humminbird app. It's on Google Earth, and I literally just have pins that are just on the back of pockets that I look for.
Yeah.
So okay, here's the deal. Yes, I gave away some absolute juice there. In fact, when I shared it on social media, I was like, I can't believe I'm actually these are my favorite areas, whatever, for $200. Which, by the way, if I was booking a guide trip, this is exactly how I would guide people. I'd do the same thing. I take them to the same areas and throw these exact baits. So for me, it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm selling the juice. It's like, this is exactly how I would guide you. I'm like, I've got kids, I've got a life, I've got 10 years of guide experience. This is exactly what we would be doing. So anyways, but yeah, so that's what it looks like. And as far as pins, they're just pins on the back of these back pockets and flats and stuff. So, yeah, you could say, oh, they're waypoints, but I'm like, dude, let's be real. I mean,
you're dropping it via Google Earth. It's not like you're pulling it from your unit.
Well, even still, I'm like, for you and me know that that's a seasonal pattern, right? Because we fish at a high level. We have years and years of experience. Dude, for an average recreational angler, I'm talking about skipping a half-ounce jig under docks. Brother, I know professionals on tour that can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's as much as I'm giving them the juice, they still have to go out and earn it. That's right. It's not like we're handing them the rod and saying, hey, reel it in.
That's the element that I've been thinking about this whole time. So as a guide, your name is pretty much all you have. That's how you get repeat
100%.
business.
Of
And
course.
and I'm just going to tell you what worries me. So you talk about your average fisherman buying these patterns, waypoints, whatever that may be. The
Correct.
only thing that scares me is because all you have as a guide is your name. You're legitimately if you're a good guide and you're a good guy, you're legitimately putting this information out there to help people. And they go out there and you take away that guide element. Like, you know, you talk about the weather conditions and you talk about these other spots to go to if this doesn't work, that doesn't work. That is that guide element of like, they're an average fisherman. They're not like us that spend a lot of time on the water. They can't make those decisions quickly like we can. They can't make those adjustments necessarily as fast as we can sometimes. So now I'm putting my name on the line when these guys go out there and they don't make the adjustments that necessarily I would have made if I was in the boat with my client. And now they're saying, this guy's selling me bullcrap information and charging me for it. And I've already paid him for it. And I didn't catch anything. So in a perfect world, what you're saying makes a ton of sense. And I'm sure it works out for guys all the time. But I take a complex fishery like Sam Rayburn. And let me tell you, man, it's going to be tough. Like, this isn't going down a grass line at Okeechobee throwing a chatterbait. Like, if these guys don't have the same electronics that I may have or set up on these fish a certain way, now I'm risking turning my name into a bad name, even though I legitimately gave out this information trying to help people. And I completely get what you're saying. As a guide, if you're not there, you're not making money. So that's always been the thing about a guide business. It's just like any other service. If you're not there, you don't make money. How can I not be there and make money? That's the biggest question. I 100% agree with what you're saying. This is the way to do it. But what worries me is my name, because I'm doing this from a pure heart. But if they go out there, and let me tell you, man, you're a guide. Shane's a guide. I'm a guide. You know, when you take your average fisherman, you can be there holding the rod for some of these people.
And they still can't catch fish.
And they still don't. So that's what worries me there is my name, because your name is everything as a guide and in the fishing industry. It's everything.
Dude, I run a $1 million business. I've got 3,500 repeat customers on a yearly basis, like, you know, coming through my tackle shop. I'm right there with you. So how do we solve for that? You ready for this?
Yeah.
We connect the guide and the customer, just like on Airbnb. Dude, I put my name on my Airbnbs. If my cleaner does something wrong, whatever, guess what? The person who's staying in my Airbnb can message me and say, hey, this is what happened. And I, as a host on Airbnb, can be like, hey, let me come over, let me make it right, whatever. Here's the deal. Dude, I'm fully aware of it. Dude, there's been people I've guided. This is a great story. I guided a fella. He wanted to catch yellow perch because him and his wife were from the Northeast. They grew up eating yellow perch, whatever. I'm like, here, well, dude, I got a spot for us. We went out, and I'm talking about fat stack, hammered them, dude, cracked their tails. We caught so many jumbo perch. It was disgusting. Well, he said, hey, I'm coming back out here tomorrow. I'm like, do it to it, man. I got a bass trip, whatever. So I'm guiding him. I'm guiding the next people the next day. And then this dude finds me and he goes, man, those fish ain't there anymore. He didn't have live scope. He didn't have anything. And I'm like, you know, immediately my thoughts are like, dude, they're freaking there. They're yellow perch. Like, they don't move. When they sit on piles of grass, they sit on piles of grass. Like,
no doubt.
The only thing they're moving for is big, largemouth, smallmouth are feeding on them. And then they're sitting right back up in the same piece of grass. Like, that's just what they do. So I told my people I'm guiding. I'm like, hey man, I said, let's roll over here and go check. I said, I wanted to fish out off the end of this point anyways with a big rock pile. He said, okay, deal, whatever. So I rolled up there. I said, you fish. I said, I want to watch how you fish. So I got my scope out there and I'm watching them. And I'm like, I already see what you're doing. I said, by the way, they're there by like the trillions, like they were yesterday. I said, like, we're fishing in 20 foot of water. I was like, dude, you're only letting your bait sink down to about 5 foot. And he's like, oh my gosh. I said, throw it out and count it down. Like I told you yesterday, you know, they just got to catching them. They really didn't start to think about it. And, you know, yesterday. So anyways, he throws it out there. He lets it get to the bottom. I see his line freaking jump like LeBron James jump, like just freaking boom. And he swings on it, catches one. And he's like, oh, so with that being said, I mean, there are people that don't know how to replicate that. And 100%, like, it's tough, whatever, but we can, and there are some people that don't want to talk to their customers, whatever. But on our platform, if a buyer buys a tip, like, hey, I went out and did this, it didn't work, whatever, we get them in connection with the guide. And by the way, we've seen it. This is a great example. A guy went out on Lake Oneida. He bought a Jordan Sidepeck tip. Stan Sidepeck, his dad, fished in the Classic on Hartwell, and Jordan Lee won it. So the guy went out. He bought the tip. It was a walleye tip. And Jordan was like, throw a jerkbait. That was the tip. Throw a jerkbait, this far off the bank, whatever. The guy went out, did not catch a single walleye, and gave him a 1. You can rate the tip, by the way. You can rate the tip.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, you can rate the tip. I should have. That was probably the first thing I should have said. Is like, buyers have the ability to rate the tip. Well, here's the deal. The guy rated a 1 out of 5 star, and I'm like, dude, freaking Jordan
Ouch.
is like, like that. So I'm like, Jordan, reach out to him. So he reached out to him. Jordan calls me back and goes, dude, the freaking guy wanted to throw a jigging spoon the whole time, and I told, like, the tip says, throw this jerkbait, throw it with this kind of retrieve.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I told the guy, like, you can't rate my tip bad if you're not willing to listen to what I'm doing. And the guy apparently is like, I'd never thrown a jerkbait. I didn't know how to throw a jerkbait, whatever. He ends up going and buying the jerkbait, doing it, and ends up smashing them. He goes back, re-rates the tip 5 stars, tells Jordan sorry. So, like, this stuff happens, but what we do is we connect the buyer and the seller.
Do you give like a cell phone, email, or is it only through?
You can message through FishTips.com.
Okay.
Yeah, you can message.
But is there an option as a seller to provide like a phone number if you wanted to give that level of service?
Yeah, totally, and that's totally on the discretion. But... Yeah, that's totally on the discretion. That's right, because once again, people just blow guides up, so that's totally at the discretion of the guides.
Okay.
But yeah, so we connect them. I mean, this happened last week. Jason Whitehead, who just won a monster tournament. He's a seller on our platform. He just won a monster tournament on Guntersville. I talked to him on the phone last night, dude. He told me, he's like, "Bro, this was how, like, the same exact tip I sold." He's like, I literally fished exactly the same tip. And I'm like, dude, that's freaking awesome. Dude, he went out and he had a guy that had bought a tip and just didn't catch him, and he said there was a lot of boats in the area and this, that, the other. And Jason was like, hey man, like this is the deal. Anyways, the guy ended up booking a trip with Jason. So not only did the guy buy a tip, but he went out with Jason and ended up catching him and learning how to do it. And then went back. I think the guy had messaged him literally earlier this morning. It's like, hey, I plan on going out this weekend. I'd love for you to make another tip. So there is tons of value. And yeah, dude, I'm with you. Like I think there's tons of value in providing the service in hand. And, people can give guides crap about, man, you're a guide, you're fishing in front of your customers. I'm like, dude, sometimes my customers want to see how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality of sometimes,
for sure.
But at the same time, yeah, dude, it is fishing. Like at the end of the day, like, dude, you don't always catch them. Like that's the reality. But what I know is people would rather go out there with the confidence and knowledge of a guide than go out there with their lack of confidence and lack of knowledge as a normal recreational angler.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Yeah.
So I'm like, are there flaws? Are people going to not catch fish? Is your name tied to it? Yes, and yes. Like that's all part of it, but this is part of fishing. I mean, just because I freaking go to the Midwest and go hunting and my buddy owns a 200 acre farm in smack dab middle of big buck country, Nebraska and he tells me like, hey, I'd go sit at that bottom. Does that mean I'm going to go out and smash a freaking 180?
Yeah.
Like it don't work like that. That's just part of the outdoors.
I totally get it. I would think for me, I'm just being honest. I'm not going to hide it. I think that'd be my biggest concern up front was your name.
Yeah, especially if they can review it. So if somebody gives you a 1 out of 5 and leaves a comment or something, can you reply publicly that it's the conversation is public?
That's a public conversation.
Yeah, 100%, man. Those are all things that are built into the platform. Because if you think about why marketplaces succeed, it's built on trust, right? Like, how do I know when I get into an Uber's car that this guy isn't gonna put chemicals in the water he gives me, rapes me, and murders me? Because of trust. Because he has ratings. Because he has a name.
Sure.
how Airbnb, how do I know when I go stay at an Airbnb, this person isn't going to lock me in and burn the Airbnb down and kill me?
So you're
there's
leading into a good topic here on vetting your guides and your tip givers, your sellers. How do you vet your sellers?
Yeah, so let's say people, and this was a big thing early on. People, were like, "Oh, you're letting anyone sell," and I'm like, "Dude, I invited a couple guys on the back end. I'm like, dude, come sit in a tech meeting and watch this. Like, come watch me vet guys." So when someone wants to sell a tip on the platform, they can hit sell a tip, and on that they'll create the profile creation, right? So just like name, number, whatever, phone number, verify your phone number. Here's your email, verify your email, whatever. But then it goes into the actual profile creation. So they give a short biography of who they are. Maybe you put like bodies of water that you guide on, whatever. And then you have to fill out your skill level. Like, are you a touring pro? Are you a guide? Are you this, that, and the other? But more so, we don't just take them at face value and say, hey, he told me he's a 13-time Bassmaster Classic champion. I'm just going to say, go ahead. No, they have to provide qualification evidence. They have to provide credentials. So if someone says, hey, I'm a Elite Series pro, I'm like, tag your profile, tag your social media, tag your YouTube channel. Like, dude, it's 2024. If you're trying to be a seller on FishTips.com because you're a guide, you have a website, you have a social media, you have something in order to market. Like, there's no such thing as a ghost in our industry. Like, it just doesn't. That's exactly right. And I get people all the time. They're like, have won a dozen big tournaments, this, that, and the other, and we provide credentials. I'm like, hey, there you go. Provide credentials. Provide your qualification evidence. And they have nothing there. And I reach out and say, hey, it looks real good, but there's no qualification evidence. And well, this was a long time ago, and back when they weren't. And I'm like, well, here's the deal, bro. I'm denying you. You can't sell on our platform. Or like if I tell people, or if someone says, I fish local lakes, this, that, and the other, and I'm a well-known guide, whatever, and they link in their Instagram profile and it's nothing but cat pictures and pictures of flowers or something, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're not who you say you are. Now, for instance, if someone's like, hey, my name's Shane Campbell, I'm a guide on Sam Rayburn, guide on Toledo Bend, formerly owner of the Tackle Addict. What, dude, by the way, I can literally just search your name and stuff will come up. And I'm like, okay, which, by the way, not only because it's like, okay, well, then can someone impersonate someone? This is where it gets good. You have to connect your bank account and your tax identification number as a seller on the platform if you want to get paid. So if your real name lines up with your real bank account, and then all of a sudden there's real qualification evidence, now we certify you and verify you as a guide, and you can become a seller on the platform.
Got you.
Yep. So, even with me, like, I'm Austin Neary, but my business is Dreamcatcher Guides. So Dreamcatcher Guides LLC, I actually went through Stripe, which is the third-party payments platform, and filled everything out as Dreamcatcher Guides LLC because I wanted all of my guides to be able to do it. And then we actually do, if they sell tips on the platform, they get, extra revenue compensation commissions on the sale of their tips. So, But yeah, so the vetting process. I mean, dude, I probably accept about, I'd say on average 2 to 3 new sellers a day. I'm probably more than that now because we've just, you're just kind of in that growth phase and it's starting to kind of exponentially grow. But dude, I probably deny, anywhere between 5 to a dozen people. And here's the deal. Like there's a guide down in your neck of the woods. And once again, I'm not dropping any names or anything, but there's a seller that was like, hey, he saw value on this platform early and he like, I want to be a seller. He said he was a local tournament angler, young kid, whatever. We vetted him. I talked to him on the phone. He provided a ton of BFLs that he had fished in, that he had pretty high finishes. And I'm like, yeah, he seems pretty legit. I mean, he'd finished in the top 10, like maybe a half dozen times, young kid. I'm like, yeah, he is who he said he is. Well, someone requested a tip the other day for a lake. And one of the guides who's verified on the platform goes, hey, I don't know who this guy is. I think he's just on your platform just trying to screw people. And I'm like, I'm glad you think that, but I personally know him. I've talked to him. I follow his Instagram and everything. If you look it up, you could see he's very legit. And I would feel utmost confident if I was going down to the lake and he gave me information that I was going to have success. And he goes, oh, okay. So, I think, dude, I'm just telling you straight up, and this is maybe a different conversation. I think a lot of people live in a constant state of paranoia, and they're like, people are just out to get me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, one, I think that's a miserable way to live your life, just thinking the world's out to get you. And one, you also think probably too highly of yourself, whoever you are. So it's like when we came out, it's like, everyone's like, how can this hurt me? I'm like, dude, how can this help you? How can this help you? I've answered so many hypothetical questions of people from pros to thinking people are going to try to steal their units off their graph I'm just like, these are all just hypothetical questions. I just want to answer like Nick Saban. Nick Saban said one of his greatest quotes that goes, I don't answer hypothetical questions. Like, what do you got? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean,
no, I get it. Yeah.
I've had a lot of conversations with you about it. I mean, we've been talking now for 2 weeks about, coming on the platform as a seller. And I know, Wyatt and I have had lots of conversations about it. I've talked to several guys that you've already vetted and are already sellers. And I've talked to guys that are on the other end of the spectrum that declined the opportunity to be on there. And
yeah. And my question to them, I'm like, okay, if this is what you do as a fishing guide, what does your retirement look like? Like, what does passive income look like in the world of people that aren't on this platform? I'm actually asking you guys, like, because as a guide, I would think, the only time I traditionally make money is being on the water. Well, what happens if I get sick, or what happens if my kids are sick? Like, I'm just asking you guys, like, how do you passively make money? How do you monetize your knowledge?
I mean, right now you don't.
Yeah, well, in that business, you don't. I mean, for me, I've got my hands.
Well,
I
guess what you could look at. Let's take this week for example. It's a rain out. We would talk about going to West Texas or doing something, but I mean, we got terrible weather. It's raining pretty much over across the whole state. Mm-hmm. What are we doing to make passive income? I guess we're doing the Juice podcast. You're right. Kind of back to what you said. It's more of an indirect way to monetize our knowledge and connections with inside the industry to make a show to hopefully monetize this channel to eventually make money off of, this content, which is,
yep.
It's the long way around. This is a little more direct approach. So the answer to your question is without producing some sort of content that is interesting to people to eventually earn sponsorships because of your following, then nothing. I mean, we're not doing anything passively.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, we have some huge partnerships, I've talked about coming up, but I'm like, dude, I mean, I have a kid now. I've got 2 kids now. I'm like, right now, you boys could right now be like, hey, dude, I'm out at Lake Chattooga right now, and I'm telling you, I could be like, dude, this is what they're doing. This is the deal. Go do this. And 100%, I have utmost confidence you're going to go catch them or have some sort of success.
Yeah.
Now here's the deal. Like this is really cool. The other morning, I had someone, he had reached out like, hey, I'm going fishing with my son. I hadn't been out there, whatever. I had made a tip for $200. Dude, it took me 15 minutes to make the tip. I'm having breakfast with my son. My phone's kind of on the counter. The little buzzer goes off because you get notifications when your tip sells. I'd sold that tip for $200 while I'm eating mini wheats with my kid as a fishing guide. I'm like, that's pretty damn cool. And then literally I'm talking with my wife. She's like, hey, what do you have today? My phone buzzed again. Someone else bought the tip. And I'm like, holy cow, here I am. It's 9 a.m. I made this tip at like 7:30 a.m. this morning. I've made, I made $200, right? The platform's a 75-25 split. So the guide, the seller on the platform makes 75%. The platform takes 25%. So what's that? I made $300 and in an hour and a half. And by the way, that's what my true net is probably on a guide trip. I mean, you guys are guides. Would you say that's probably your true net, what you're making on a guide trip?
Yeah.
Yeah. After gas and all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, here I am. I just literally made what I would have made on a day of guiding. I had cereal with my son. My wife was breastfeeding my daughter. And I'm over here about to go downstairs and answer emails and phone calls and stuff. So like this, and like I said, I'm like, when I think about, dude, what happens when we're done with our fishing career, bro? And you have all this knowledge and all this everything, like what's your retirement look like? Unless you're investing your money or you own real estate, which I'm an entrepreneur. Like I love those things. I love money. I love interest rates. I love talking about, freaking CDs and 401ks and passive income. Like, I love those things. So I'm kind of doing it. But like, how does the average guy who's a fishing guide, who's dedicated his life to, like, what's retirement look like? He's just going to guide till he dies. He's just going to get skin cancer and peace out.
Yeah.
No, it all makes a lot of sense.
No, I mean, this is where I've struggled with. Obviously I got some friends in the industry and people you and I have talked about, and it's like, they have a negative outlook on it. But man, I'm struggling. The more and more I chew on it, I find it harder to.
What it boils down to is
to see the negative side of it.
It boils down to, if you're going to do it, you're just going to have a tough skin. I'm just going to tell you right now. I mean, it's just, I'm telling you, because people are going to judge it, love it or hate it. The way the Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend area is, these are tournament lakes. It's going to be controversial. There's nothing that anyone can do to explain it to where it's not going to be. So if you got it, it could get dirty around here. I'm just gonna tell you, because people do some crazy stuff around here. There's a lot of money to be won in tournaments on Rayburn.
Rayburn's a unique lake to do it on. That's the other struggle.
And if you think that people are stealing other people's spots anyways in tournaments, so who's to say somebody wouldn't sell somebody else's spots?
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude, it will happen.
So here's the okay. So this is a great conversation. This is like, now we're getting into some real. If everything else wasn't meat and potatoes, this is meat and potatoes. Okay. So let's talk about selling let's call monetizing or selling someone else's spot.
Oof.
I had a conversation on that Alabama Bass Council thing with a very notable person. Said, you put a price tag on my livelihood and my waypoints. And I asked this, I said, dude, you're in a wrapped boat on Lake Gunnersville. Do you not think people are dropping pins on where you're fishing, whether they're guides, recreational people, and then coming back and fishing that stuff in tournaments, or coming back and guiding their customers on your stuff already? Let's be honest.
100%. I mean, even when they have an elite event, you have boats following.
You have follow boats.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, guys, this is already happening. So we being man to man, as someone who's trying to make money in the industry, you just better further monetize it. Like, that's just the reality of what's happening. And let's talk about hunting for a second. Why is the sport of hunting dying and the sport of fishing not dying? Okay, I'll tell you why. Because people like you and I, Shane, we love to deer hunt. You other boys like to deer hunt too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Deer hunter.
So we can buy up private land and limit access. Well, guess what outdoor recreational activity is not getting any more limited with access?
Fishing. Dude, the lakes are the lakes. They're the lakes. They've got big dams. They're not going anywhere. So more people are flocking, which means there's more people on the water, which means more people are seeing you on the water, which means more people are watching YouTube videos, and there's more content than ever. Like, and this is a very controversial thing I've said, and this is, dude, there really are no secrets in fishing. Like, there's timing, right? Like, you understand, like, hey, when the sun does this, and then you need to make this, or the wind direction is this, and then, if it's a water temperature drop like this, those timing things. But like, as far as locations, bro, I can get on navionics.com. I can look at every shoal, every high spot, every saddle, every ditch on Sam Rayburn, and I promise you, dude, I'm probably going to have a little bit of success out there. Now, I know I can do that because I'm, a decent angler. And I have knowledge and skills, but I'm like, by the way, dude, that's somebody's fishing spot that I just zoomed in on Navionics, that I'm like, that point comes out super far. It looks like there's some standing timber. Dude, that's somebody's fishing spot. It's public water. It's all someone's fishing spot. Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, I see that. You're right. But if you're talking more on the direct line of, because we deal with it here. Let's take Rayburn, for example. Right, in tournament fishing, why Rayburn is such a challenge. It's so busy with tournaments. Guiding on here is extremely hard. Matter of fact, we were off water for champs. We couldn't guide on Rayburn for 12 days because of off limits guide rule, which is stupid. But anyway, and we're off water for off limits right now. But there's so many tournaments on Rayburn, and there are guys out there, and again, we don't have to name names or whatever, but it's just the nature of the sport. There's guys that are looking for certain anglers who do well and basically stealing those spots. So what's to stop them from learning about this marketplace, as you call it, platform, of going, well, not only am I going to take this hole from them, I'm going to sell it and make money off it, not just off tournaments, but so have you run into anything like that with guides, somebody saying, hey man, like this dude hole poached me and sold this tip? Have you had anything like that yet?
So I had it from a couple crappy guys down in your neck of the woods. Someone hopped on our platform who I vetted, and they're like, I'm 100% positive he's selling our brush piles. You know, and my first thought was like, my initial thought was, hey, you did put them in a public lake, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, you know, and I'm like, okay. So first off, I'm like, you created habitat on a public resource. So like now that habitat's open to the public. I said, two, I'm like, you didn't buy the tip, so you don't know. But I'm like, let's go on the back end. I said, let's go on the back end and see. And so anyways, I'm video calling, FaceTiming this guy. And I'm like, I just showed him. I'm like, this is where he is. And he's like, oh, that's not where I thought he was selling. And I'm like, okay. So I said, I'm like, now the roles are reversed. Now I just showed you his stuff.
Yeah.
And he wasn't selling your stuff. I'm like, now who seems like he's in the wrong? And he's like, woof. Like, you know, so dude, here's the deal. I've caught fish, quote unquote, on other people's spots. People have caught fish, quote unquote, on my spot. I mean, dude, all my freaking lakes have brush pile littered by me. People see my boat. People know I'm a guide. I mean, I know, dude, let's talk about something real dirty. I have guides that I've hired that worked for me, salaried employees that said, hey, I'll never guide again. And 2 weeks later, they open up a guide service under their own name on brush that I've planted. Dude, like I said, that's not hypothetical. That crap has happened. Yeah. How do you think I should feel? I could light the world on fire. I could be the most pissed off person. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, welcome to fishing in 2023, 2024. This is the reality. I need to further monetize it because this is how I monetize my stuff. If you're worried, I'm just going to say this. If you're worried other people might sell your stuff, then you should sell your stuff. That's just the reality of it. If you are paranoid that someone else is going to sell your stuff, then brother, listen, and I'm going to just tell y'all something. I don't try to play the political card, but I'm like, guys, you got we're all conservative Christian capitalists. This is a capitalistic platform, and you're upset about it. If you're upset someone's going to sell your stuff, brother, you should probably get on and sell your stuff. Welcome. That's how you solve it. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
I don't that's just the reality. Like, we're all going to be paranoid of people. Oh, he saw me. I'm like, dude, I'm guiding customers, and they're like, oh, a boat's coming. I'm going to hold my rod tip in the water. I'm like, brother, let me tell you something. That's my buddy. He shops in my tackle shop. He watches the YouTube channel. Brother, he's seen every damn spot I fished for the last decade. I'm like, you reel in a fish ain't nothing new on this spot to him. I promise. Yeah. I'm like, this is just the world we live in, man.
That's a good outlook, actually.
It's a sobering outlook. And this is, dude, I just listened to the Luke Duncan, BTL, Matt Pangrack podcast this morning. They were talking about, like, could you ever do a reality TV show in the fishing industry? And they were like, no, because everyone's so scared of being canceled. And dude, I'll be honest, a lot of the negativity I've got is because I'm just like, hey, brother, this is just how the industry works. And people will be like, no, you don't know the industry. I'm like, dude, I run $1 million tackle shop, boat service place. I'm a guide for a decade. I fished the opens for a couple of years. Like, you may not think, like, just because you've never heard of me doesn't mean I don't know what the industry does. Like, I'm in the industry. It's what I do. It's what I've done since I was a little boy. I'm just telling the truth. Like, we have a sport that's growing. Dude, guys, answer me this. This has happened to me. Have you ever had someone put binos up and look at you on the water?
I have no idea. I would hope not.
I've never busted anybody.
Okay, I have 100%. I've had it happen multiple times.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's rumors of it going on, obviously, but
I get all these points for sure, but I don't. Sam Rayburn's a different world, dude. Like, I could see somebody getting hurt over this deal. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm just gonna be straight up with you.
Here's the deal. Do they want to hurt you now because you're a guide? Because as a guide, what you're doing is no different than this platform.
No, I think more on the tournament aspect. I'm not talking about me. I'm just looking at examples that could just potentially bad things could happen from this.
I think that's where the vetting comes in, though. I think if you guys really sounds like you do your due diligence on vetting these guys that are sellers, then I think you can avoid a lot of the conflict.
I think you can.
I
think some guys could sell themselves pretty easily too.
Yeah,
based on you start pulling up tournament results, I bet you put a green check mark on plenty of people.
Well, but also, okay, so here's the deal. I mean, there's also a little social media criteria, right? I mean, like if a guy is just a terrible person, asshole, and like is a no-name dude that has high tournament results and has 80 followers on Instagram, to be honest with you, I get a little concerned. I'm like, hey, tell me a little bit about it. And a lot of times I try to reach out to people in the area and say, hey, what's the deal? Dude, no different than, we had reached out to a seller on our platform about you, Shane. Someone was like, hey, I think Shane would be a good seller. And I'm like, oh, I need to reach out to this guy because he might know him. And, there's a couple guys that know him. They're like, dude, Shane's a stand-up guy. Everything. Now, is there someone out there that probably thinks you're an asshole? Probably, bro.
No
My wife
way.
thinks I'm an asshole. My wife thinks I'm an asshole about 95% of the time. So, I'm like, if you ask my wife, she'd probably say I shouldn't be on the platform. But, but in all seriousness, dude, and guess what? Dude, there's going to be things that fall through the cracks. I've seen stuff like One of my buddies the other day was like, you have Airbnbs, right? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, did you just see there was an Airbnb owner that murdered 2 people? And I'm like, dude, we're humans. Like, this is why Jesus came and died for us. Like, we're a bunch of sinners. We're broken people. Like, I'm sure shit happens. Like, this is just the world we live in. It's a fallen world. Like, there's going to be negative. Like, there's always bad things.
Bad apples. Yeah, I get it.
Freaking Jim Harbaugh apparently stole signs and Deflategate with the Patriots and steroids in baseball. Like, dude, there's freaking things that are broken in every industry. And listen, we can nitpick at everything. At the end of the day, what we've created is a platform for guides and dialed-in anglers to maximize or to sell fishing information to help recreational anglers maximize their time on the water. It's a platform. And by the way, if they don't want to sell Waypoints, I would argue the most famous forward-facing sonar guide of history of all time. And he's like, holy cow, I can sell my settings on your platform. Like, I get 100 messages a day. People want to know my settings. And I'm like, yeah, how do you monetize it? He goes, I have to guide them and show them my settings. I'm like, yeah, well, you can get on the platform and put it. So it's like, okay, like, is he going to get his tires slashed because of that? Like, this is just a way for him to monetize what he feels like is valuable information. That's right. Like, once again, there's so many pros and so many people. They're like, oh, I need to create a YouTube channel now. Dude, when you create a YouTube channel and people know your home waters and then you're fishing, you can landmark people, you can triangulate, and people know where you're fishing. And by the way, YouTube's paying you a hell of a lot less than you can make when you sell a fishing tip.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I see it from that side. I see it from that side. I have absolutely I don't disagree with that end of it at all. At all.
After, numerous conversations, not only this one here, I mean, I struggle to argue. I see the negative side, but I also see, that's just, like you said earlier, it's kind of going back to the paranoia. I mean, there's going to be some stuff, but man, I think.
Do you limit the number of guides that you allow to do a certain lake? Like Sam Rayburn, for example, that's a humongous lake.
Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't yet. We're still super early. We're not even at a year. Like, I love people when I'm like, have you heard of FishTipscom? They're like, yeah, you guys came out like a couple years ago or something. I'm like, that makes me feel good as far as traction goes. But I'm like, no, we're not even at a year yet. I'm like, holy cow, like, feel like you have a ton of traction.
Yeah.
So the answer is we haven't run into that yet. And I'm just going to tell you guys, we have talked about it optimally. We'd like to have a few, because here's the deal. It's not bass tips. It's not fish waypoints. It's not like we think like, and don't get me wrong, there's some guys that really know where they're scrappy, but I would like to get a couple different guides of multiple species on each lake in what I would consider like hot regions, like the Sam Rayburn Toledo Bend. Dude, by the way, I was on Google Earth earlier. You can literally see Toledo Bend from outer space. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, yeah, a huge lake. And I'm like, dude, there's, how many people could how many people come there as recreational anglers? I know I want to. I'm like, dude, I want to freaking make a trip after one of my best friends won the Open there. I'm like, I want to freaking go down there and just fish and have some fun and stuff. But I'm like, dude, that lake could probably handle a lot of or more sellers than other lakes. But we've thought about it. Like I've thought about it a ton. Like, you know, if you get too many sellers, it becomes a saturated market and there's not a lot of value proposition for sellers. So I'm like, you know, we've thought about like, hey, we might eventually explore limiting the number of sellers on bodies of water, which, by the way, would really kind of benefit early adopters on the platform.
Yeah. No, I get it. I honestly, I think you guys have a really, really cool and unique idea. And, you know, I'm shifting more to the positive side than the negative side on this. And I know you and I have had a lot of conversations on the side too about how I think this is really just the tip of the iceberg for your platform. Like,
oh my gosh, there's so much stuff coming down the pipeline, Shane. I cannot literally like legally tell you guys about, like, I think you and I have spoke on some of those things. I can't say on record.
Yeah, sure. No, I think I know what you're talking about. But I mean, those ideas, like we talked about, other ways to monetize your knowledge, i.e. affiliate programs, things like that, you know, I think you guys are building something that may have some negative feedback right away. Again, I think that's just human nature to kind of push back on change or something new or something unknown before really looking at it, like you said, objectively and saying, what's really so bad about this platform? I don't know.
Oh, I like for me, I just wanted to get those questions answered.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you did a great job answering.
I think it's doing a service to guides to create residual income. No doubt. I think it's great. But those questions for me, I mean, I would have to have those answered if it was something that I would do, you know, for me personally.
Yeah. I mean, that was a conversation I had earlier with a fellow at Okeechobee. He's like, dude, I kind of want to read the message, but he said, dude, I'm vehemently opposed to this. I don't like it. And I said, just why? I'm curious. I just genuinely know, because I'm like, once again, dude, like I'm a guide, you're a guide. I've been a guide for a decade. This guy's been a guide for a decade. Why are you against it? And he sent me a deal, like all of his kind of objections. He's like, well, I don't want to sell my secrets. And then we talked about that. I'm like, you know, as a guide, are you selling your secrets? He's like, well, yeah, I guess I am. Like, and we just talked through all these objections. And then the big thing was being in control of your content. That was the powerful thing, because if you look at, you know, YouTube is probably YouTube, Instagram, like your social medias, your personal social medias are the best way to obviously control your content. But unless you're pulling sponsorship dollars, which, by the way, dude, a lot of companies are just looking for guys with these massive followings and these huge influences. But the reality is there's tons of guys in their little markets that are super knowledgeable, that people trust. I mean, we have one of our sellers, Josh Tepley in Oklahoma, has made like $4,000 on the platform, and he started in December.
It's impressive.
And by the way, have you ever heard of Josh Tepley?
No.
Never heard of him, dude. The more I look at his Facebook and stuff, his customers, his following love him. They trust him. It's unbelievable. I'm like, it's the coolest thing to watch. And I'm like, how many Josh Tepleys are there out there?
Yeah,
dude, there's probably thousands of Josh Tepleys.
Yeah,
you know, and so back to the deal with the Okeechobee thing. Like when you start to like really peel back, like let's just get to like the foundation of what we do. Like, man, I am so pro guide. I'm so pro people trying to make it in this industry. Like when I think about my business, the name of my business is Dream Catchers, right? I've got my real estate companies, Dreamcatcher Real Estate, my fishing business, Dreamcatcher Guides, my tackle shop, Dreamcatcher's Fish Supply. Like my like why I think God put me on this earth is to help people catch their dreams. And if I can help people do that, that is a life that is like a fulfilling life. You can never feel fulfilled if you're just trying to do things selfishly. Like, so for me, I'm like, I look at our industry, I resonate. Like, I am a guide. I was a tournament dude. I know how hard it is to make. I've made it, dude. I make really good money owning a tackle shop, a boat service center. Like I've grown a real estate portfolio off of fishing, dude. Fishing income. Like I've kind of made it in this industry. And when I step back and look, like, dude, I know how much fun this industry is. I know these relationships I built. Like, I just know it's hard to do it. And what I create, like, dude, I just want guides to succeed. I want guides to make more money. I want them to make passive money. I want recreational anglers to make more memories on the water. I want all these things. I think truly at the heart of it, dude, are there going to be some negative things? Absolutely, man. I freaking was at a 5-star restaurant the other day and bit into a piece of grilled chicken that had a bone in it. I could leave a 1-star review and say, these SOBs ruined my arc, and just like, hey, like, this happens. Like, nothing is perfect, but this is really, 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 really close to what we think is a great, great scenario for both recreational anglers and guides. And that's where the ship takes off, and that's where the ship lands. So.
Man, all valid points, all good arguments. I think it was a great conversation.
Yeah.
You got any more questions for him?
Let me think. I don't think so, man.
Shane, I shoot a Hoyt. Judge me.
I used to shoot a Hoyt. I'm Matthews now.
What stops somebody from being like, hey, like me as a guide on my guide page, right? Hey, man, I got this tip. Here's my Venmo. If you want it, Venmo me this.
Can do it. You can do it, man.
Got you.
Nothing.
I've done it before, so that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. And I'll say this: the power of the platform is, the ability to be convenient, right? So I do believe this platform is eventually going to, like, recreational anglers. This will be where they like, man, I'm going fishing tomorrow. What's the latest tip posted by a guide?
Got you.
So the ability with the value proposition is we're connecting strangers to guides.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, of course. I mean, someone could totally do that, and you know what? There's nothing stopping you from doing that. But I would just say, like, the power of this platform is the ability to connect strangers, just like Airbnb. Like, customers. If I was just a direct,
you're marketing to customers.
That's right. If I had a direct booking company, like, I totally cut out Airbnb. But the reality is, Airbnb provides 50 million eyeballs to my potential listing a day. So there's value in that, where with a direct booking agency, someone would have to kind of stumble upon me, or I'd have to just have my marketing that dialed in to be able to show eyeballs in front of them.
Yeah. You're putting our tip out there to a much bigger audience. I got you.
Yeah. And I'm sure you ran into this, dude. If you ever dealt with custom bait makers at your tackle shop, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, dude, so for instance, we had a guy making some swim baits one time, and I'm like, hey, dude, he was selling them for like $100, and he was selling for like $100, I want to say like $100, right? And I said, hey, you're just selling to people and you only know maybe 50 fishermen. I'm like, we have 10,000 followers, and all of our videos get like 15 to 3,000 views. I'm like, I said, this is what we're gonna do. I said, you're gonna sell them to me for like $60 or $70, and I said, I think the value for the price point on this, we could actually charge $110 or $120. Well, all of a sudden, I had ordered like 20 swim baits, and anyways, he's like, hey, I can't, I don't only have 3 for you. And I'm like, what? Like, you said I could come pick up all 20 at the end of the day. Well, all of a sudden, I got the 3, and I put them up online. They sold like hotcakes. Well, then someone's like, I don't know why you're selling them for 120. He's selling them 110 or for 100 to us. And I was like, hey, dude, like I said, like, if you utilize my channel, we could sell thousands of these baits. Yeah. And you can, you'll make more money because of the sheer volume. But he just didn't understand that. He's like, oh, well, I make more money if I just sell them to my local people.
Of them. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, I'm like, it's the same deal, right? But, at the end of the day, this platform is for guys to be utilized. We also too, we've talked about potential tiers. Like, if you're doing so much volume of sales on the platform that, maybe it's a more favorable split instead of a 75-25 split. Maybe it's a 80-20 split or a 85-15 or something, So, I think there's some incentive programs. Like, dude, we're new to this. We're walking through everything the first time, just like we all are in this deal. This is just part of figuring out life. But yeah, so totally. Yeah. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I answered a bunch of my questions for sure.
Yeah, man, I think it's a great topic. I'm curious to hear what our listeners think. I'd like to see some comments from some people and get some feedback. And man, we appreciate you coming on, dude. We're gonna turn you loose.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long episode.
I like it though, man. It's good.
It was good. Yeah,
I think people stay engaged.
Yeah, well, like I said, at the end of the day, I like care for people. Like when I hate, dude, social media is probably the worst though, with people just like people that don't know me, don't know anything. Like they hear one influencer, one person say one thing, and they just regurgitate what someone else has heard. And I'm like, all right, I just want to challenge people. Like,
yeah.
And I'm not saying you're not thinking for yourself, but like, seriously, look at your business model. If you're happy with how much you make, whatever, I'm like, man, do it. Like, do it to it. If this fits your business model, do it. And this is why I challenge people. Is what I'm doing right or wrong? It's neither. It's either a business or it's a business. Is what Airbnb doing right or wrong? It's like, listen, if it's truly a business, the market will rise to it and it'll be successful. If there's not a business there, the market won't rise to it. But at the end of the day, people's emotions don't have any recollect. Like, there's either a market for it or there's not. Is it right or wrong, or is it not? It's a business. It's either going to be a great business or it's going to go out of business. Like, that's just at the end of the day what it is. I truly feel like the foundation we've built and are caring for both sellers and buyers on this platform, I think we're onto something special. We have a lot of traction. We have almost 35% of our buyers are repeat buyers. So, even answering that question earlier, say that again.
It's good retention. Customer retention.
Good retention?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous retention.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. 35% of all buyers on the platform are repeat buyers.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That means if they didn't see value, bro, our repeat business would be very low, 5-10% maybe.
Yeah.
A third of all buyers are coming back for more. And a lot of those guys are coming back. I mean, dude, that means people are seeing value in this. And as far as sellers, I think like 85% of our sellers are repeat sellers, which means they're seeing value in this. So there's a little bit of stickiness and a little bit of traction that's happening. So, I want to encourage people to objectively think about it. If it fits into your business model, man, freaking do it too. We're all for you. We're here to help. We want to see you succeed. If it doesn't fit in your business model, it doesn't mean the business is right or wrong or anything. It just doesn't fit into your business model. So anyways, I appreciate you guys for giving me the time. I think it was a great show.
Yeah. No doubt.
And yeah, the market will eventually speak for itself. So,
Yep,
absolutely.
For sure, man. Well, we appreciate you, and Austin, I'm sure you and I will talk again soon.
All right, sounds good, guys. See you.
All right, man. Take care.
Dang, this is gonna be a long episode, dude.
It was good though. Like I was engaged though. I think it's an interesting topic, and like I said there, I would like to hear from everybody that listens to this. I know this is towards the end, and most people watch about 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be – how long is this episode right now?
We've done longer. I think the one we did with Todd was the same length. It's an hour and a half. So
it's long. It's long.
Nah, but dude, he answers all the questions right. I mean, he has a valid point in that if there's a market for it, the business will succeed.
I mean, I don't disagree with him, but to sit there and think that it's not going to be shaky on an area like San Bernardino and Toledo, you're kidding yourself. I'm telling you right now.
Oh, believe me, I've thought about it a lot. I'm like, how do I put out?
It's not
like you said. I told him the exact same thing you said. I'm like, my name. How do I put out tips that are legit tips that aren't going to get people pissed off at me? Because I'm not going to put something out there and put my name on it that's not legitimate. And I know why it wouldn't do that either.
No. Not
to say that any of these sellers would or wouldn't do that, but fish move, things change. It's very hard to. As a guide, how often are you out there and you think you know exactly what we're going to do? Let's take our tournament, for example.
Yep.
You and I in the boat together. No guide, no customers, just you and I. We had a preconceived idea based on a lot of time on the water.
Yes.
How tournament day was going to go.
It didn't go that way.
Did it go that way?
Not at all.
Not at all.
And would your average fisherman be able to make those adjustments?
And what would you have sold that starting spot for?
Oh, more
it's
than
priceless to us.
Pay
and we didn't catch a fish off of it.
I know.
I still think it's priceless.
It is. I wouldn't sell it right now.
No, it's not for sale.
Not for sale. I mean, but that's what I'm talking about, man. Rayburn, okay, the business itself, great. But he says if your business model does not fit into this business, I got news for you. This area may not fit. And if you find somebody that's willing to say yes, I don't know, man.
it's hard to be. It's a tournament lake with guides on it, obviously. I think it fits Toledo Bend.
I think
a
it could
little bit
fit.
better.
It could fit my business model some. If I was able to go on there and do things like
Techniques.
Yep.
Look for whatever. Look for channel swings in 20 foot of water.
Let me sell something.
Whatever.
But we're talking about start selling dots.
I do like the fact that he does limited number, right? So let's say we find a school of fish and we're like, hey man, there's a school here you can go catch. You can have a ball, learn your forward facing sonar. You're probably not gonna catch 7, 8, 9 pounders, but you're gonna have fun catching 2 to 3, 4 pounders.
Yeah.
They're gonna be here for the next week or so, maybe not. The next cold front might move them, and you sell that tip 5 times for $100. That's about. But how often can you do that? And is that what people want to buy? We know what would really sell.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is a hole that when they're there, you can catch 30 pounds. Nobody's going to sell that stuff on Rayburn. Not it's theirs.
Not if they want. Not if they want to like do well in events. Man, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm gonna ask. I mean, I'm gonna ask him those questions that I had. And I think they're very, very valid questions. And really, that one I asked towards the middle of the end of the show about, hey man, this could get somebody hurt. This could get nasty. I'm gonna, he said, well, one of the points he made is, well, they would do that to you anyways. Well, no, they're not, because if it's so and so. And he sees so-and-so, and he's like, I'm not going to mess with that dude because I know what that dude's going to do to me. But now that we got this dude over here selling this Waypoint, now the door's open. Now I can go to it and have an excuse. Hey, man, I paid for it. But I wouldn't have done that to you because I know what's going to happen if I do it to you. Now you just open the door.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, to sit there and say that that's not possible, that's possible, dude. I'm not disagreeing with the business at all. Listen, I'm a business-minded dude. I completely agree with what he's saying. There's a way more positive than there is negative.
Yeah.
Would that situation even happen? Probably not. But if it did, it would be a hell of a situation. I mean, that's all I'm going to say about it. Look, I'm not even saying if he offered this to me that I would turn it down, but I think I would go about it a certain way. And I wouldn't feel comfortable. I would not feel comfortable doing it if there was like 10 or 15 guides on one lake, like Rayburn and Toledo. It would have to be like me and you, a couple other guys get involved. No way I'm doing it.
Corner of the market.
No, I mean, there's no way I'm doing it with like 15, 10 guys because it's already a crapshoot. What if you do that? Now you're talking about a whole different world of a crapshoot. Like, I'm just being honest.
I think for the
I'm
consumer,
not a hater
I think
at
for
all.
the consumer, he needs to limit the sellers anyway, so the consumer can say, hey, these are vetted guys. These are the guys that they trust to sell on this body of water.
Yeah.
I mean, if they leave it open and have a free-for-all, which is my fear for increasing their sellers, they might want to do because money talks, you know what I mean? Like, the more sellers they have, the more money they make. I get that.
I get every point he made.
But, no,
I get every point he made. Trust
me.
I think I will say it again, there is more positive than there is negative. But
you could pick this thing apart all day long. Believe me, I have. I've literally been talking to Austin now for a couple weeks. I'm just not sure what to do, to be honest. And I've talked to Wyatt about it. So I want to hear from everybody that watches this. I'd encourage everybody to listen to this and then go to FishTips.com and check it out. I want to know. I'm a pretty objective thinker. I like to think that, even if I have an immediate negative reaction, which I'll be honest, 100%. When Milliken did that thing, when he did this first one, I was like, whoa, out of bounds, timeout, foul on the play, whatever. And I didn't like it at first. And now that I've really kind of, all right, hold on a minute. Let's be objective about it. Let's think about this. Let's do a little more digging, see what this is actually all about. Man, I encourage everybody to go take a look and see what you think. And I want to hear. Yeah. I want to hear from you.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's why I answered the questions I did. I don't disagree with what he did. Like he said, man, love it or hate it, they're going to make money anyways.
Yep.
That's going to happen.
Anyway, we got to focus, man. We got to focus this week.
Yeah, we got a derb coming up, and we ain't selling nothing.
We might sell it all
after the tournament, man. We might be,
it's all for sale. There ain't no fish there. We found fish here. They've been there for a month.
Hey, here's a waypoint. They might show up.
One day.
On
a Wednesday when it
maybe
doesn't matter.
10 years from now. $10 grand, you can have it. Anyways. Tell us what you think, guys. Long episode. I hope you listened to it. It was pretty good. I got some thinking to do about it myself, and we'll see. Maybe I got a Fish Tips account next week.
Who knows?
Till next time, guys.
See ya.